Welcome back to Daybreak. It's 16 minutes past 7 o'clock, and we reintroduce our guest, that is Senator Samson Cherargei from Nandi County, Senator Isaac Mwaura, nominated senator, and Mheshimiwa Anthony Oluoch from Mathare constituency. And we want to take you to what the politicians had to say. That is the series of them, including Kalonzo Musyoka, who now says that the president needs to stop the talk or the rhetoric and start acting.
Kenyans want to see action. Wangapi wanasema wanataka kuona action ikifanyika? Watu washtakiwe.
Na mmeona William Ruto juzi tumesema 21 billion imepotea. Lakini mtu wa kwanza kuongea alikuwa William, anasema hapana, ilikuwa 7 billion sio 21 billion.
We cannot allow one individual to bring down a nation that was built for more than 50 years. Sawa sawa? Muko tayari? Na tunasikia pia hizo pesa hizo za damu zinaletwa hapa, wanatangatanga hapa wakitangatanga.
Deputy President can be removed for gross misconduct. The threshold for the removal of the Deputy President on constitutional grounds is much lower than going through a criminal trial or a criminal prosecution.
I want to appeal to the President that this is the time you must be courageous. Please take charge. Can you, for instance, ask Deputy President to be prosecuted?
Anthony Oluoch, senators and MPs from your side feel that the deputy president should be removed, that he should be prosecuted. From where you see it, what offense has he committed that he now needs to be removed or prosecuted?
I think you should look at what the issue that is being addressed. I think the Deputy President has expressed dissatisfaction with what the President is doing. The President has set out to fight corruption. So really what they're saying is, in other words, is that, one, the President, you need to be firm, yeah? Take charge. I think that's a message that I see out here. And from what I hear Senator Orengo to be saying is that if then it will have to boil down to let's remove the deputy because he's an obstacle on the fight against corruption, then the threshold really is not as high as removing the president. I think, in other words, what they're saying is we need to deal with this thing if we're going to deal with corruption. Okay. Because the deputy president must answer this question and come out clearly. That if the fight against corruption is targeting Jubilee agenda, yet the person championing it is the president. So whose agenda and who's the head of Jubilee? Number two, you're saying that the fight against corruption is targeting one community. You need to be clear, and I've seen somebody ask this before, one politician, is there a community called corruption? Because as far as I'm concerned, when we meet with him in Parliament, we sit and we chat and we have tea. There is nothing called like we are fighting Kalenjin or fighting community X or Y. What is being fought here is corruption. And if the obstacle, the one person who has singly come out to say that if you're fighting this, you're fighting my 2022 agenda. You're fighting civil servants who are stealing, you're fighting my community. Then let's target that person, because it seems to me that he has placed himself in the road, on the road, deliberately. Nobody has mentioned Ruto.
Honorable Oluoch, we've seen James Orengo saying that the DP should be removed from misconduct. Nominated Member of Parliament, Maina Kamande, is also leading a group of legislators saying that the DP and his allies should also step aside. You're also a lawyer. Take myself and, of course, of all of us here and the viewers through this, the process of removing a deputy president, then what happens from there? Just generally speaking, what does the Constitution say?
First of all, I don't think we've reached the place where we need to remove the deputy president. I don't think we have reached the threshold where you say this is gross misconduct. So if you're asking me, the constitutional threshold of gross misconduct, gross means that it is gone way beyond the conduct that is associated with that office. And I think Chapter 6, Article 73 defines it. It says that every state officer should conduct himself in a manner that brings dignity and honor to the office. It is a public trust.
All right.
So if we get to that point where we feel the deputy president is misconducting himself and is dishonoring that office, then we go to the threshold, and the threshold for removal, according to him, means that you don't have to go by a two-thirds majority. Once we remove it by way of impeachment, then the president has two things. One, to either ask him to step aside if Parliament is able to put up a tribunal or a select committee, and if the select committee or whatever forum or mechanism is used to do a vote of no confidence, I assume that is the procedure that would lend itself to do a vote of no confidence. Then if that office is vacated, then the president perhaps has to replace him within 90 days.
That's on impeachment matters.
Yes. Yeah.
Does the same applies to if he woke up today and decided to resign, if it was coming from him, from the DP?
No, a resignation is just that you can leave office by infirmity, either death, bankruptcy, or resignation. If I resign today as members of parliament, there's no procedure. I just simply write and the president acknowledges. Then the president has to find a way of replacing his deputy.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, all right. So we need to tie the loose ends as we conclude on this topic, because now we see clearly we're fighting over perception. It's not something that is really tangible on the ground, because this side, allow me to say that, this side says that the war on corruption is skewed towards a certain agenda. You say that Jubilee is now torn. You don't have an opportunity to really talk to each other. Much of it is you're talking at each other. But the two of you, what do you think is the solution out of this? Because you have a lot of work to do, big for agenda. You have now just slightly above 3 years. How do you execute all this?
Let me say this. First and foremost, I think there is a noble calling in fighting the two vices that have bedeviled this country. And that is corruption and tribalism. If you look at it clearly, the handshake was actually to help us to fight tribalism, because tribalism robs us of our collective sense of purpose, and corruption robs us of our present and future. So it's very noble, and we can crystallize our problems to these two. And when now these good intentions are predicated upon the handshake and of course proper and non-partisan investigations, then there's a political rhetoric around it. First and foremost, it causes realignment. And second, it stalls development. Because then how do you engage about the big four, and yet you require the cooperation of counties for it to be achieved? You require the unity of purpose in both the Senate and the National Assembly to pass the agenda of government in terms of legislation, in terms of bills, in terms of budgets and all other related policy and legislative frameworks. Now, what I see for me, you see, right now we cannot start talking about the deputy president vacating from office, because then we are prosecuting him in the court of public opinion. There is nothing concrete that we can say has happened. So the person to help us here is the DCI. If the DCI has actually found that the deputy president is culpable, let him pass the files to Noruddin Haji, so that this matter can proceed on its own motion.
So, Honorable Moro, you're saying the fact that right now, development can happen until the cracks within Jubilee are cemented. So are Kenyans, are Kenyans to pay, rather, for the fact that the ruling party Jubilee, there are cracks inside at the expense of development?
Zinzi, oh, that's very obvious, because why are we in government? We're in government because we would want to work together towards achieving the Jubilee Manifesto. But now, when we start fighting internally, it means that then the focus that was there, right now, we are talking about development. But it is becoming what Ronald Reagan called development corruption. Because it's about, for example, Aurora and Kimwarel. It's about the money is involved. That money was supposed to do what? Simply give water to the people. So it will be this dam, the next time it will be that road, the other time it will be that land. How will corruption, how will development happen in such kind of an environment? And I am here bemoaning that fact, that sometimes when you look at why Africa does not develop, it's exactly what is happening.
So what is the solution
because,
to that problem?
let me first describe the problem, Sam. Because now, we will now start politicking. And all of us in this panel, now we become foot soldiers, or whatever political inclination that we are in, and we will not concentrate on, bring down the temperatures that then gives good atmosphere for business and development. You get the point? So yes, there's a direct covariance between the two, and that's the reality. That Kenyans will get a raw deal.
Sadly, we cannot have development as political parties and their drama is happening on the side.
Not necessarily. There will be politics of development. Like what we should be arguing right now is whose idea is better than another, not who has stolen what money, who is supposed to go to jail, who is supposed to be impeached. When it comes to that, then people take sides. Okay. And when people take sides, it becomes tribal. And when it becomes tribal, it becomes irrational.
Okay, so we have a problem. What is the solution?
No, even before I go to solution, it's shocking that people who do not believe in leadership of Uhuru Kenyatta are offering unsolicited advice. If today, if a crocodile is sick and monkey comes and tell you it is sick, you should be very careful. If the hippo comes, then you should be assured that the crocodile is sick. So these unsolicited advice, the people from opposition and NASA brigade, they should be busy fixing the opposition. There are reasons, maybe there are two reasons. You need to define
opposition because now we have a lot of opposition.
Yeah, I don't know whether NASA was there. There is Mudavadi, there is Kalonzo, there is Raila. They are very busy.
In Jubilee now.
It is not the official opposition. We have the official opposition. There are two things that I read that these people want to achieve.
Okay.
One before Anthony you come in. One is that these people are trying to derail the legacy of the president. You know why? Because if the president succeeds in building a legacy, it will be a springboard for his deputy to succeed in 2022. Number two, even as we talk, the Big Four agenda has flopped. Because as you have said, 2 years into leadership of President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Jubilee administration, we are still discussing, and you know this handshake, we have already insisted is a public fraud. So if handshake was good, as I give you a solution,
we understand the
you give my panelists all the time in the world.
Yes, to define the problem.
Let me finish by saying so that I give you a solution. If the handshake was a godsend, we should be implementing the Big Four. The solution is let people stick to their lands. It is as simple as that. And the president, which we bestowed the trust of leading us as Kenyans, he should now bring back the derailed train back to track. And we concentrate on the Big Four agenda. The issue of corruption and investigation should be left to the constitutional bodies that are mandated. Then the country moves on. And I agree with Senator Maura that we should be discussing who is better idea in terms of improving the economy.
Okay, so people to stick to their lanes. Now let's take a look at some of what you've been saying on 2242. If you have those SMSs. Sir Nixon Duge Kindaruma, quite a veteran viewer, he's very loyal. He says that I think there's a huge monster behind the handshake. That has swallowed almost all the goodwill. I ask, who has been arrested on corruption?
Okay, that's his question. Let's take a look at another SMS. 22422 is where you can text in. Seth, you say, if one starts a war, he or she cannot win. Those being fought easily develop a common cause to strongly all hit back.
You cannot say huisero. Say huisero. Liwan Shikuku from Chiro Ward in Baringo says that I'm agreeing that Oluoch is saying the DP should pave way for corruption be scrubbed. Cherargei and the likes of Sudi should not abuse the president unless they tell us Kenyans what plans they have against corruption. I'm from Kalenjin community, but I'm seeing fight against corruption iko sawa. No community is targeted. Do you have tweets?
All right, let's take a look at tweets. Hashtag Daybreak is your ticket into the conversation. Okay, Lazaro, you say, I'm afraid fighting corruption will definitely fail because of too much politics.
And the last tweet that we have for the moment is from Maxwell Parasi, says that I will believe that the war against corruption, that the war against corruption is real the moment one of the accused political leaders lands in committee prison. So it's clear that people appreciate there's a challenge in the country that needs to be dealt with, but unfortunately there's so much politics, it shields them from seeing results, like you said. So
yes,